Hello and welcome to Line of Duty. I'm Joe Johnson, and over the past 5 years or so, the Lake Orion Police Department has gone through numerous changes. Back in 2019, Police Chief Jerry Narsh, after serving the village for, close to 40 years, 38 years, he announced his retirement in 2019. When he stepped down, he was replaced by Harold Rossman, who also had a long tenure with the village police department, 36 years of service, but then he retired in 2023 after only serving about 4 years. Then Todd Stanfield, who was lieutenant at the time, he stepped in as interim chief for a little while before he ended up, he got appointed a full-time police chief, but then he stepped down, and then he was replaced with acting police chief Thomas Lindberg, who held on to the position until village council finally filled the position full-time. And joining me now is Mark Amundson of the village police department. He is our new police chief, and I'm so glad that you're able to join me here today.
Pleasure, Joe. Pleasure.
Thanks for coming down. So you are a Michigan native. Tell me about your time here in Michigan before you began a career in Nevada.
Sure, Joe. I actually was born and raised in Michigan, and I spent my younger years down in Wayne County, parts of Oakland County, and I kind of have an intertwining story that led me into the law enforcement career. But when I was in Michigan, I ended up getting taken away from my parents and placed in the Michigan foster care system. And so with that, I bounced around a lot of different places to live with some family members that would take me in intermittently here and there. And I ended up having great role models throughout my life. That's one of the reasons, why I feel like I went the career I went. But I then ended up with my uncle in Novi, Michigan. And I ended up graduating from Novi High School. Moved out when I was just 18 years old onto my own. Then I started kind of evaluating what I have and didn't have, and just kind of the upbringing. I didn't have a lot. I had a few close family members that I was talked to, but I had a stepfather from when I was very young, moved out west to Las Vegas. And so I talked to him, and when I was 20 years old, I mailed everything out to Las Vegas, wanted to get into a career in law enforcement, and out west was the place to go at the time. And started moved out to Las Vegas, Henderson area, and started my career out there in law enforcement.
Wow, and that ended up being a 20-year career in law enforcement in Nevada.
Yeah, I spent a little over 20 years in Nevada with the Henderson Police Department, which is a suburb of Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. The valley, Henderson would border Las Vegas. I believe there's about 50 or 60 miles of border to Las Vegas. And the population, when I started there, was about 120,000 residents. And when I left there, I believe there were around 400 to 450,000 residents.
So a lot of growth in that area.
A lot of growth over 20, 25 years, yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the experiences that you remember from your career in Nevada? What were some major memories there?
Well, good and bad. You don't leave a career, especially out in that area, without some bumps and bruises along the way. But just the camaraderie of people, and the brotherhood of the officers that you're working with day in and day out, that take care of you, that look out for you. And then also Henderson was a great, unique community because, a lot like the village of Lake Orion, it's very supportive of their police department. For the most part, and just instilling and making those relationships with the community, with other officers, with attorneys, with judges, and all of those people along the way, the business owners when they're starting up new businesses, and just some great memories and some I miss dearly.
Yeah. Now, I was told you were involved in that tragic event in Las Vegas where there was a shooter at the Mandalay Bay. What are your memories of being in law enforcement during that time?
Well, that was a tough time. That's one of those things, and I know this community too has had some very tragic incidences recently, and in the last few years, and it's stuff you never forget, images you never forget. So one of my good friends, we all played on a police softball league together. So it was Sunday night. I'll never forget it. We had a later game. So we started at 9 o'clock, and the shooting happened just after 10. And we're playing softball. One of our good friends couldn't. He was our pitcher, and we relied on him a lot. You know, he's a good hitter. He was working overtime at Mandalay Bay, and so he wasn't there. And so initially, how we found out about it is we started getting text messages that there was a shooting down there. We didn't really think nothing of it. It's Vegas. There's shootings all the time. And then more and more, a friend, you know, this person was getting shot that we know, this other person. And then so we ended up leaving the game in the middle, throwing all our stuff into our vehicles. We had our work vehicles with us, and always we had a change of clothes with us as well. And then the tip of it was when our friend, who was the pitcher, actually got shot in the neck at the scene there. And he, you know, so we got up and left, and we all started just heading down to that scene. And once we got down there, probably about 40 minutes or so after the shooting started, there was a continuous flow of radio traffic of people saying, hey, we have additional shooters throughout the Las Vegas Strip. And you know, a mile and a half up the road, I remember specifically one was at the Mirage, which is about a mile and a half to 2 miles north of Mandalay Bay, and saying, hey, we have another shooter here 40 minutes later. And so there was different tactical teams or officer QRF teams is what they called them, quick reaction force teams, that would go into these calls and confirm it was nothing. And in hindsight, what it was is, I believe over 1,000 people were injured that night. Injured, not killed. And people were running from the scene, and what they would do is they would run into a hotel room all bloody and say, hey, there was a shooter out there. And then we would get a new call saying, hey, there's another shooter here. But really, it was just from the same incident, and it was a delayed report.
So your resources are getting spread thin because of misinformation that was coming in.
Yeah, and the entire strip and the entire area was locked down. And then we spent some time clearing the field as well, and there was multiple victims on the field, obviously, but people hiding, and we're just too scared to come out.
Yeah.
And this is well after hours into it at some point. And then from there, we spent our task force. I was on an FBI task force at the time, and we spent the next, several months, but really just full time, the full 30 days, just investigative follow-up on it. We were a small wheel on tracking down leads and interviewing people and just examining every part of his life.
And so during your time in Las Vegas, it wasn't all tragedies and being a part of history. I had read that you would be involved with like presidential visits. Is there any stories you want to share along those lines?
I had the honor. One way to say it is when President Obama was running for president in 2012, he decided to stay in Henderson for an entire week, and so I was actually at that time I was the liaison with the Secret Service on it. So I was in all the motorcades with the Secret Service. Anytime he wanted to go to a pizza place or an ice cream shop, I would get in the motorcade. We would go with him. He would go and play basketball with his Secret Service agents, and we would go down there and walk. And then anytime there was any local matter, the Secret Service would then call me. I was the liaison to get the appropriate resources to handle this issue at a local level. I've also participated in a lot of, just like out here, Michigan being a swing state especially, you see a lot of campaign trails and speeches and all that, and I participated in a lot of those because Nevada, I went from swing state to swing state. So Nevada is a very swing state, so we were constantly getting President-elect Trump and former President Joe Biden, all of the other people running and on their campaign speeches, where we'd have to coordinate manning and security and safety and with the Secret Service. But to see what goes into those events is nothing short of just a miracle, and that all goes well. But there's so much planning and so much preparation. I mean, for one visit that's going to happen in 48 hours. I mean, we're hours and hours of planning and preparation and looking at that stuff. So that was exciting.
It's amazing, as a kid growing up in Michigan, did you ever step out of yourself when you're in the presence of a president or president-elect, where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm witnessing history, I'm part of history? It's got to be surreal to realize you're in that situation.
It's always it's weird. Like when you see someone that you see on TV and then you see them in real life, and it reminds me going back when I was a kid. I worked at Meyer. It's a stable here in Michigan. But I remember working at the counter, and it was late at night. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I saw this guy. He was just glowing, and I'm like, who is that guy? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know who that was. And it was Bill Bonds from Channel 7. And I'm like, I've seen this guy all the time. And then when you see him in person, it's surreal is the good one too. And I remember when I'm walking with President Obama at the time, and I'm just looking, I'm like, I'm walking like 10 feet from the President of the United States, and it was just, it's definitely surreal. But it's like, I'd be happy if I could walk around some Detroit Lions right now and see some of those guys. That would be a little bit more exciting. But
just got to flash your badge, that's all.
Wow.
So Lake Orion is obviously, you're not going to experience the same hustle and bustle that you did in Henderson. What made you want to apply for the position here in Lake Orion, and how did you even become aware of it?
Well, great question. So ultimately, the plan is I'm coming home to Michigan. I've seen enough in Las Vegas and the teams that I was on that I care to share. I have 2 young children. I have an older child who's graduating high school, which is good, but I have 2 children in elementary school. And well, if you do some research on public schools and schools in the area, Las Vegas is not known for good schools. And Michigan, especially Lake Orion and these other schools, have phenomenal school districts, have phenomenal teachers, and just a phenomenal community. I joke going to the village kind of, but it takes a village to raise a child, and children, and just that support. And my wife, she was on board, and to get our kids in some of the best schools. So what motivated me coming to Michigan was the schools for my children, the crime. I want to get them away from that, the drug problems. The Sin City is not made for children kind of thing. It's a great place to visit. I mean, by all means.
I agree.
So that was what truly motivated me. I kind of went back and forth about, should I stay in law enforcement? My wife was like, absolutely not. And so I really had to sell her of this, hey, it's not the same. This is a little bit different community. I'm not going to get 55 phone calls over a weekend because of all of the violence. That it was a bad weekend, and it's going to be occasional at most. And so I had to sell her on getting into police work. So I kind of fiddled around, looking around in the private sector. And then I don't remember exactly where I saw this ad listed, and I looked at it and I said, I'm going to give this a shot. I remember Lake Orion when I was a kid. I actually worked in Waterford, the Summit Mall, if you remember.
Yeah,
the Summit Mall. And it's not this. It's pretty much gone from my understanding now, which is just crazy in itself. But then again, when I drove up Lapeer Road for the first time, I looked for the Palace and I couldn't find it.
That was gone too.
There was a lot of changes since
Silverdome is gone.
I came back. So I looked at it and I said, why not? Let's give this a whirl. So where I lived, it's like Lake Orion's not really that far, but it reminds me there was an episode of the show called Detroiters. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Okay,
Tim Robinson.
Yes. There was an episode where they were going to give someone a ride home, and he said, "Oh, they live in Lake Orion." And they're like, "Oh, like it's so far away." It's really so close. But when I'm a kid, I'm not really. scrounging by for gas money, and it's a little different. So I've been out here once or twice, but
there was a character on the show. His line he kept saying is Lake Orion's not that far. Lake Orion's not that far, and the township supervisor Chris Barnett and I were joking that we were going to change the motto of Orion Township to that it's not that far, and people believed us. We had to tell people, no, that was just a joke. But yeah, it's almost, and that's the thing, Lake Orion is almost, it used to be a resort town. It's kind of still sort of a getaway. It's a lake town, and I don't know what it is about being on the water, but that seems to have an impact on the residents and the people of Lake Orion, and they're so kind and so giving. And working in this field in video production, I'm always covering fundraisers and people coming together and helping each other out. And when the condo explosions happened in Orion Township, everyone stepped up to make sure that those people were taken care of and got what they needed. So what have you witnessed since coming back here to Lake Orion and getting the job? Talk about Lake Orion as a community and what you've witnessed.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, you said the condo explosion. I've been following that story ever since it happened. Such a tragedy. I mean, I find myself going out there to eat in that area off Baldwin and all that kind of area, and like I'm following stories of people that lost their pets and cats. Yeah. And so I drive through some of those neighborhoods, just kind of taking a little, peek through to see if I can find one of the cats that's missing. And just to see the involvement of the community. It's not, you have 5 or 10 people looking for this pet. You have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people sending photos out, and just the genuine concern. I
just heard recently that one of the missing cats was located, so it works.
and it's it's great, but every and I'm guilty. I eat out a lot. Okay, I don't cook, so that's
I can relate.
One of the things. So I find myself visiting a lot of the restaurants and establishments, and the best thing I can say is when you're out in Las Vegas and the server comes up to you and says, "Hey, how's your day going?" It's very artificial. It's very like, "Hey, this is what she." And maybe I shouldn't say this, but this is what that person does to get, help with their tip. But every single person that, I would go up to one of the restaurants and they would come and get my drink and they would ask how my day is going. I truly believe, and it's because they want to know. They want to know, how is my day going? It's not like just a checkbox question to move to the next table. And just I'm finding this whole community is like that, and I love it. My wife is almost like, "Where did you take me?" She's like, "These people are just so nice everywhere I go," and I'm like, "Welcome to Michigan. Welcome to this community, to this area." And I've had nothing but great experiences with people and their sincerity. You know.
You mentioned that since you've taken the position, you've taken part in community events like the Halloween parade, which returned to Lake Orion after maybe a 5-year absence. Shop with a Hero, were you there for that at Target? Like I said, this community is amazing. About it has that small town feel where everyone looks out for each other. And talk about that aspect of it, of taking part in community events.
Well, let's be realistic. Myself and a vast majority of why people go into law enforcement is to help people, to be a good person. And just the overwhelmingly, the Shop with the Hero, for example, like we go there and it's not just the officers. We had all of the officers' significant others. We had their family members all coming there to help. My 2 kids were there and spent 2 hours wrapping presents as well, and my little 8 and 6-year-old, and they are still they still can't stop talking about that event, and they're asking, "Are we going to go next year? We're helping people out." And I'm like, "You guys are perfect Michiganders."
Awesome.
This is the and I remember seeing you there. So if you remember the little kids there wrapping
I have video of that.
Yeah, those are my children.
That's so awesome.
And just everywhere I turn around, it's not. What do you I need something. It's, "Hey, what can I do to help you?" You know,
Yeah.
and if you take each interaction like that, it changes the perception and the trajectory of how that conversation's going.
Yeah, yeah. With the few minutes that we have left, let's talk about the future of the Lake Orion Police Department. I know that the Lake Orion residents love their police officers, and they're so present. I mean, you see them throughout the community, not just getting a ticket, but you see them, you encounter them, and they're always friendly and chatty. But there was a staffing issue fairly recently where the police department had to bring in some sheriff's deputies to come in and help cover the community. I know there's been quite a few hirings over the last year or so. But there's a faction, there are some people who say, let's get rid of the police department and just have Oakland County take care of that. What are your thoughts on the future of the Lake Orion Police Department?
I will tell you the Lake Orion Police Department has been a fixture in the village since, I believe, 1904. So we're talking 125 years or 120 years of history in the Lake Orion Police Department. So it's very, it was in a place of flux. There's no secret. There's been news articles about the staffing challenges that they've had. We are completely at the point now where we're self-sufficient. We've hired 2 new officers. We're going to look into potentially staffing a 3rd new officer this July. I really wanted to make sure that we took our time hiring not only a qualified person, but the right person for the village. It's a very special place.
Yeah.
Police work, Joe, is easy. Police work is the easiest thing. It's A, B, C by the numbers. Hey, this is what you do. But learning what the village needs, wants, and expects from their police department, that's where I focused on the hiring. Hey, what is the right person for the village? It's a very unique community, a great community. So I am very confident the people that we brought on are not only going to be the right people for the village. Obviously, there's going to be some growing pains, with training and newer people getting used to the role. But they're the right people for this time, and I believe they're going to be sustainable. If we have this conversation 5 years from now, I would not be shocked if myself and both of them are still members of the Lake Orion Police Department.
Yeah. Are officers required to live in the village, or is there any sort of requirements like that, or no?
No, I know that's one of those kind of antiquated programs where departments would require officers to live in the village.
Yeah.
Or live within the municipality boundaries. But that, I don't know for sure. There may have been a court case saying that wasn't possible or lawful to mandate where they live. But both of the new officers and a lot of our current officers do have ties to the village, living close by, and also family ties to not only the village but to the township in general.
Yeah.
So they are members of this community.
Because that's one thing I heard that for proponents of keeping the village police department is response time, and that these officers are in the village and can respond a lot quicker than, say, a sheriff's deputy. The police department also has an amazing relationship with Bryant Sims Elementary School. There's the Kids and Cops program. Has that kicked off in 2025 yet, or is there a date set for that yet?
January 24th
So it's
is
coming
our
up.
first one. It's the Thursday, January 24th. So we're excited. We're actually, the emails have been going around from our reserve sergeants that are setting up the scheduling to get our dates in, and now we're excited. It's going to be my first one.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I've had a lot of interaction with Blanche Sims. The principal there is phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's very supportive of the police, and so we have conversations with him. We do a lot of tours with the 2nd grade class that they bring their students in. So we've got to meet a lot of the kids and a lot of the teachers and administrators there as well. So this is just one more step to support that relationship with our elementary school.
It's organized chaos, so brace yourself, but it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it reminded me of being at home. And I'm like, I thought I went to work to get away from this. But no, it's great. Kids I love kids, and being around them and just kind of being a good role model and mentor for the kids too, because it doesn't matter where they come from, They always want a little sticker police badge. They always want to crawl on the police car, and they, you know, deservingly, undeservingly, by default, a lot of times we're a hero to them, and we can never take that for granted.
And really, that's kind of what this program and other programs like it do is, you know, sometimes there might be a fear of a police officer because you kind of associate a police officer with bad things that happen. And so it's great to see that these programs kind of connect officers to kids and the community and help alleviate any fears they might have.
Yeah, great. And the one thing I always want to say is, with relationships with the police, is you don't ever call the police, Joe, or one of these children's parents. Don't call the police and say, "Hey, I'm having a really great day. Can you come by and say hi?"
Yeah.
A lot of times, the only time or the only interaction we'll have with someone in the community could be at their absolute worst moment. So it's so important to have this rapport and these relationships built prior to those moments happening. So there's a trust with the community and the police department, no, it's just very important.
That's awesome. Any final thoughts as we wind down the program? Anything you want to say to the community?
No, I just I want to reassure the community that the largest issue that we had is just the consistency and the sustainability, or the appearance of sustainability that's been going around the news and in meetings and all that. It's the Lake Orion Police Department is in a really good place right now. I only seeing it growing from this point forward in the positive direction. And Joe, I'm here for the right reasons. I'm not here to make a huge salary and run off, you know, in this tiny little village. I'm happy. I'm here for the right reasons because there's opportunities here to do something great with the police department. Yeah. There's opportunities to be part of a small niche community. And like I said, police work is easy, but learning the village and what makes this village unique and special, that's the part I'm learning, and I'm committed to learn and continue learning.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you. We're lucky to have you, and I wish you a long and safe career in the village.
I appreciate it, Joe.
All right. Thanks for joining us, and you're
Thank
welcome
you.
back anytime.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. And that'll wrap up this edition of Line of Duty. We'll see you again soon. Good night.